So hello my friends, Devon Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to selectively add grain if you've over-retouched someone's skin to get that texture down. Okay, so here we are, Adobe Photoshop. I'm going to be showing you guys this particular technique in this video right here using Beautify retouch panel. I will be doing the exact same video without Beautify retouch panel following this video as well. So you guys can see if you are using the panel, you can use it with this specific technique and do it the same way. If you don't have this panel and you haven't purchased it and you don't have access, whatever it may be, you can just do this with just using grain as its own separate layer and not an action. It's basically the same thing. Granted, the grain patterns are a little bit different, but for the most part, it would be the same exact process. So you won't miss out in any way. So I do want to kind of show you guys more of the before and after. This is kind of the after. This is an image that was already retouched. Now this is what happens if you go too hard on the skin retouching. So basically what I did was, and I'll even put it to 100%. There's a tool in Beautify that's called plastic skin. I did miss some spots, but you can just see how much it's just kind of, and I didn't really do like a perfect mask. You know, you can obviously see I missed some stuff, but you can see that it just went really hard and there's like no texture at all in her cheeks and it just doesn't look realistic. So if you're in that position, how do you kind of recover that if you, for whatever reason, you saved or you overwrote the file and you don't have access to go back and kind of redo your retouching, or maybe you don't want to? Well, basically what you can do is by adding grain selectively in the areas that you do want to accentuate and bring back some texture. This is a very common technique when it comes to high-end beauty retouching to basically get perfectly texturized and smooth skin. Even when they're going super hard and they're getting rid of every single blemish, you can still get this perfect texture. This is what they're actually doing. So they're just adding grain and you're getting that fine, perfectly smooth grain pattern. Now, like I said, this wasn't perfect. I definitely missed some spots. Like it's really not that great. But you know, you guys get the general idea. You're doing that. So essentially what you're gonna do, if you have Beautify, we're gonna go into, let me come out of full screen. We're gonna go into window, we're gonna go into our extensions, we're gonna open up Beautify, and then when this loads, when you go over into the retouch panel under various retouching, there's actually an option right here that says grain. Pressing this actually opens up another copy. I guess I'll just redo it as a matter of fact. Let me just click it. It's not gonna kill my computer here. So essentially what it's doing, it's basically adding a duplicate version of your layer. So it's duplicating that background. It's adding a grain on top of this. So essentially what you're gonna do is use the brush. You could use 100% opacity, 100% flow if you'd like, just to make your life easier. And you're going to brush in those areas. Now, I do want to say, kind of as a caveat, the grain that it does add is perfectly uniform. People's skin, the texture is sometimes finer here and then looser here and then finer here and then looser here and finer here. Our texture on our skin isn't exactly perfect. So with that, you may want to end up doing parts of this manually depending on what your specific needs are and how much you specifically need to add as far as texture and grain. But basically, you're just gonna use this white brush to show this layer and you're going to paint in on her face. Like I said before, the texture's not perfect on anyone's skin. It's never this uniform. It's totally not realistic to have perfectly uniform skin like this. But in high-end beauty retouching, I don't know, we just kind of do it anyways. It's just part of the industry standard I guess to a certain extent, I don't know. It's just something interesting. So obviously we can see here that this is way too much. I'm actually gonna go back into full screen so we can kind of not get distracted here by all the other things. We can see that this is just way too much. So all you have to do is just decrease the opacity to 50, 60, 70%, depending on what your specific photo calls for. And if you think it's too fine, like maybe it's just like, okay, there's too much texture in her face, you can just come back with the eraser tool, eraser brush. If I was using Wacom Tab, I would use Flow, but just do 50% opacity and then make it a very large brush. And you can just brush over and then get rid of some of that texture, or you know, vice versa. You could make it even lower and just brush over, get rid of some of that texture over there. And then, you know, get rid of some of this texture down here and then maybe get rid of some of that right there. And then you just kind of just erase wherever you think is too heavy. And then now you have a little bit more realistic grain. So that's essentially how you do it. Especially in Beautify, it's super easy because this is already down here in various retouching. There's a bunch of different things that I will cover as I do the series for Beautify here. But ultimately, that is how you selectively add grain back into a retouch if you've kind of went too hard on the frequency separation or the blur tool or blemish removal, whatever it may be, whatever your technique of choice is. If you went too far, this is how you're adding the skin texture back in selectively, and you're getting perfectly uniform skin so that it looks fantastically flawless. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the contents of today's video insightful and added value to you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let us know if I overlooked something or I missed something covering what we covered in today's video. This is Devon Lennox. You know where to find us. Photography. PhotographyPX.com.